B'medrash Rabba Beraishis, Parsha Tesvav, Ayita Chulu, Ve'akran Chulu, Ein Matnas Kuna. Says Midrash Rabba that Hashem planted in Gan Eden and then He uprooted. V'ayin b'zohar truma daf kaf zayin amud beis al pasuk apirion chulu matzei levanon. So the Zohar Truma brings a pasuk from Shir Hashirim that Shlomo made a canopy from woods from Lebanon. Ilain inunitiyun de akar chulu v'shasil chulu, and these are those plantings that He uprooted and He planted again, implying that He uprooted from Gan Eden and replanted in Lebanon. Pirush Ramaz dehim vav ksavos deze'er sheneakru hainu inyan olamato, and the Ramaz explains that these trees are like the concept of the 6 sides, the 6 midos of Zeranpin, that were uprooted, meaning to say the hainu inyan olamatohu, the concept of the world of tohu, as is known, the concept of the trees, that the concept of growth corresponds with inyan of midos, which is ze'er, because you have domim someach hay medaber, and the domim corresponds with malchus, and ze'er corresponds with the tzomeach. At any rate, so the vav midos of tohu, those are the ones that broke. It's the midos of tohu that broke. So they were replanted as the vav ksavos in Atzilus. That's the havamini here. Sheneakru me'ol matzilus. But no, he's saying no. These are the vav ksavos ze'er. Hainu inyan olamato sheneakru me'ol matzilus. And here he says that they were uprooted from the world of Atzilus. V'yardu lebria lo lamapirud chulu, and they descended into the world of bria, into the world of division. So according to that, we're talking not about the shvira where we're talking about above Atzilus, but rather from Atzilus down to Bria, which is more closely related to the concept of the sin of the tree and the nitzutzos that fell from that. But at any rate, afterwards they were fixed in the world of tikkun, and they became not like the spheros of tohu as nekudos, but in lines. And that's in the middle. Which is and that's the concept of that He planted them in another place, meaning to say, in the concept of tikkun, seemingly back up into Olam Hatzilus. And similarly is the intention in the Medrash here. Amar Rabbi Chanina, Kakarni Chagavim Hayu. Rabbi Chanina says that they were like the horns of grasshoppers. That is to say that the pashtus, these plants, as they were uprooted, they were only these small sprouts like Karni Chagavim. That is, in the world of Tohu, they were only nekudos. These spheros, these vav midos, that the vessels were small, and they were uprooted, like we said before, that this refers to the spheros hakelim of Tohu. And they were planted within Gan Eden. Zeu inyan olam hatikun. That's the concept of the world of tikkun. I'm not sure how you plant them in Gan Eden, if that's where they were uprooted from. Where were these uprooted from? At any rate, and the Mikdash Melech has a different explanation in this. That is to say that this refers to the 6 sides of Abba, as they were in Abba, and they were uprooted from Abba. But not on be'ima. They were planted within Ima. Kain Pirusham. That's the Mikdash Melech as Pirush, as opposed to the Ramaz that we brought before. But Parshas Pinchas Tafish Yudzayin Amud Beis, the Mikdash Melech explains it in the same way. and to explain it this way, that the drop from the brain of the father becomes a child in the womb of the mother. And that's the uprooting and planting. I guess it also makes sense that it would be connected to the of Adam Sadeh. But the concept of Musar Avicha is the flow of Abba from the concept of your father. Ubebir HaZohar, Parshas Balak, Tafresh Gimel Amud Beis, Al Pasuk Kim Rosh Tzurim Arenu. It's also from the head of the Avos. Here it usually refers to Avram Yitzchak Yaakov, but Mirosh Tzurim also can refer to the top of the concept of the father, which is the Chokhmah, where the drop comes from, like it says in Perek Beis in Tanya. We know that the Gan Eden Hainu Ima Bina, and it's known the Gan Eden is Ima, which is Bina. So if we're planting in Gan Eden, so that's within Ima. So where are they being uprooted from? According to this, we must say that they're being uprooted from Eden itself, Gan Eden, and they were planted within the garden, because the Eden itself is going to be higher than the Gan. Eden L'chud v'Nahar L'chud, and Gan L'chud. So they're being uprooted from a higher place into a lower place. But now we're going to explain according to the Berush of the Maz, where he explains that the kira is from Olam HaTohu, and the replanting is Olam HaTikun. Menashim Biksara, then we'll write it down in short. Ein drush ani chulu de parshas tzitzis be'inyan tainuk de mitzvahs v'inyan yisro na'or v'chulu. Look what it says in Parshas Tzitzis about the pleasure of the mitzvahs and the concept of the greatness of light over darkness. And similarly, the Gan Eden was created from purifying the world of Tohu. So that corresponds with this idea, where that you have the breaking of the vessels, and then you create Olam HaTikun as the Birur, and that's going to be Gan Eden. So you're planting them within Gan Eden from Olam HaTohu, which is, would be a lower place or maybe higher place, but on the level of Tohu. Gan b'gematria Aleph Ban. Therefore, Gan is gematria Aleph Ban because it's from the Shem Ban is a concept of birur, of elevation of the sparks. The Pirush Ramaz Vayichid Daf Resh Vav Amud Aleph. V'zeh shekaz of Yasim Sham Es Ha'adam. And this is why it says they placed man there in the garden. Hadar Hametakin Mito Letikun Lios Gavin. That is the, I guess, Melech Hashmini Hadar, that fixes the concept of Tohu to be Tikun in order to make it into lines. You mean small ve'emsa. That's the concept of Adam. Who's the parts of? Placing Adam is like Melech Hashmini Hadar, that the last king is the source of the Tikun. And that corresponds with Adam Arishon here. Ve'afshar alomer de perish Viita v'chulu mikedem hainu shenato manetios she'akar ma'olam hatohu. We can say, I mean, actually, that actually, because Hadar is the only one that had a wife, and so to Adam, the fact that he has a wife, had Chava, and united with her, is part of the concept of the story of Tikkun. That placing the Adam there and giving him a wife is the, so to speak, end story to the Tohu, where you have the Tikkun of creating the Kelim and the Kavin and so forth. And planting, which we said was also this yichud of Abba and Ima, according to the Ramaz, but according to the Mikdash Melech. But according to the Ramaz, this also would make sense if we're saying that this is connected to Adam Arishon, who's Melech Hashmini Hadar, that their union, the Adam, is part of this concept of changing Tohu to Tikkun. At any rate, we have Shalom at the Pirish Vayita v'chulu mikedem hainu shenato manatios. And we could say, What does it mean? He planted in the Gan Eden Mikedem, Henu Shenatan Manatios Akar Me'olamato, Shnikra Malchin Kadmoin. That is, he planted them from the saplings, from the plantings that he uprooted from the world of Tohu, that were called the first kings of Esav. Shekadmul Olam HaTikun, before Olam HaTikun. Now, this actually also is a nice way of connecting the two types of Shiur, the one of from the tree, where the Netzusus fell into the river, and the kings of Esav, that were literally saying that the trees that were planted in Gan Eden were the Malachin Kadmain from Tohu. Maybe they, so to speak, were the tree that you weren't supposed to eat from. V'gam heim zayin tachtonus to malchus de'ak. And these weren't just the levels of the kings of Tohu, but they also correspond with the 7 lower levels of Malchus Avak. V'zeu Mikedem. This is why it says that they're from Mikedem. They're Kadmoin, Gan Eden Mikedem, because they're coming from Ak, not just from Olam HaTohu, so to speak. And he placed them in Gan Eden. Avodas ha'adam shelamata lahamshich tosefes or. That's the concept of man below as well to do the birur, not just Adam Rishon himself, but also this corresponds with avodas ha'adam to bring down extra light. V'hu al derech ofanim l'gabi srafim. And this is the concept of the angels that are like wheels in comparison to the fiery angels. Im hiyos ki gam asrafim ma'tikun. Even though that these fiery angels are also from the concept of tikkun, shnistaken me'olam ha'tohu, that were fixed from the world of tohu. It's part of the birur is the malachim that were created in the birur that descends. Remember, there's a birur that goes upwards, and there's also the birur from milamayla lamata in the creation of the worlds. The malachim that were created is part of the purification process. As the light from tohu descends through the olamos, so the Srafim then are part of the Birur until the Sparks all fall all the way down below into the Klippos in Olam Asiyah Gashmi. Im kol ze ufanim lefi shehem Birur mamash nafal b'asiyah zeu gavo Yosef. But nonetheless, the ufanim, because they are purified from what fell all the way down into the world of Asiyah, they are even higher. That's why there's a mila to the Ofanim in comparison to the Srafim. Because they are from the lower, birur from what fell down further down. It's known, whatever falls down further is actually comes from higher. Now through the great noise that the Ofanim, that they make this great noise towards Hashem, they bring down this the higher concepts of Keser, that the hair of his head is like clean wool. Ach inyan gadol. So that's the Rash, that they're mamshich. The Rash is that they're bringing down from a very high place, and also it's osios se'ar, the shairos of Sari Sheikh Amarnake, and so too, it refers to bringing down from that level, that great noise of so to speak, the fanfare of the Hamshocha, I guess, and the fact that it's gadol is the fact that it's coming from Olam HaTohu. Shnikra Godel, Lagabi Tikkun, that's called great in comparison to Tikkun. Kamashkosu Bedibur Hamaskil B'Shalach Paro, the Oros were Gadolim, I guess. In comparison, and the Kelim Ktanim, in comparison to Kelim Gadolim and Oros Ktanim. Kamokan Nimshach Lamayla B'Chinas Shalamayla Mahayishtalshlus. So too, we're drawing down from above here a concept that's above the order of creation, because the hair itself is like the allegory of the white snow. But in order to reveal also the inner lights, the inner concept, that comes from the great noise. So, I guess the concept of Godel. Yisron or min hachoshech, the greatness of light over darkness. So to the revealing the what was allegorized from the allegory. That's the pnimius. And the inner concept of the hairs is the concept of the good oil. Yeah, I guess that Shiur is the gardens kanaran that is poured over the shiros. It's the pnimius, hamshacha pnimius, not just the hairs, but it's the godel part. V'zeu inyan tosefes or began Eden. That's the concept of bringing down extra lights into Gan Eden. Ki Gan Eden atzmo shorsho mechachma bina the mekabli mashayros. That Gan Eden itself, as it comes from chachma bina, that receives from the concept of the hairs, mashayros atzman, from the hairs themselves of keser. But through the concept of the service in the Gan is the concept of the great noise, that we bring down the pnimius, like the concept of the oil, and also like the concept of the rains into the garden, not just the garden itself, but raining into the garden, tal and dew, to make everything grow in a much greater way. This is why it says that he placed him in Gan Eden, that he gave him the mitzvah of Shabbos. Maybe that's why he couldn't pluck from the tree, because it was going to be Shabbos. I don't know. Because Gan Eden itself is the concept of the tree of life within the garden. That's the Gan Eden. Because the Eitz HaChaim is going to be not connected to, it's going to be Tikkun. Zeran pin of Tikkun is an Eitz. Like we said, the Vav Ksavos of Tohu is going to be the Shvira, which corresponds with the Eitz Hadas. So the Tikkun is going to be Eitz HaChaim. Look in Zohar Shlach Shlach. It says that Moshe sent the Meraglim to see if there was a tree. Hainu Eitz HaChaim, to see if it was the concept of the tree of life. Or if it's the concept of Ein, or it's a concept that's higher than the Eitz HaChaim. Because if Eitz HaChaim is Zoh, so Ein is going to be even higher than that. V'hu Atik HaKadisha is the concept of Atik, of Keser. Which is much higher than Zir Anpin and Abba V'Ima. It's the source of pleasures, the playfulness of the king within himself, the joy of the king within himself. In his essence, which is higher than the pleasure that's included within Chachma. Lahamshich began Eden Matika Kadishka Amor Bezohar Truma Daf Kuf Men Bezamar Alaf Zeu Aidel of the Chulu Canal. In order to draw down into Gan Eden from Matika Kadisha, that's through the concept of Avoda. So, meaning to say that the Eitz HaChaim itself, the Gan itself, is Zah of Tikkun. But in order to bring down even higher, you have to have the Adam there of to work the garden, and that's drawing down from Atika Kadisha. Vini ikar gilui zehu biyom HaShabbos. And the main revelation of Atika Kadisha is on Shabbos. Sha'azai hutala de natif matika. Then you have this dew that drips down from Atik az tisanig al v'chulu. Then you have pleasure upon Avaya, above Shem Avaya. K'mosh kazav b'zor vaychi daf resh yud tes aleph. Atam, when the reason is ki Shabbos zehu bitla yesh la'ayin, because Shabbos is the concept of nullifying the existence to the ayin. V'yesh Shabbos tatav Shabbos ilah. You have a lower level of Shabbos and a higher level of Shabbos. Bitla yeshu bitla miti, nullifying just the existence and a true nullification. Like it says in the Mimar that you keep my Shabbos is two levels of Shabbos. That's why on Shabbos it shines the concept of ayin that's higher than Eitz HaChaim, because you get to bitl amiti. The Shabbos ilah, because wisdom enlivens v'hi b'chinas Eitz HaChaim, Eitz Lashon Eitz v'tushia, because that's the concept of the tree of life, that the tree is the language of Eitzah, of advice and saving, because even though we said it was the tree of life was of Tikkun, the concept of Eitz here is also the concept of Chochmah, because Eitzah is from the language of advice, which is Chochmah. But the concept of Tashiyah, though, is also corresponding with Keser. So, but I guess Eitz of Tashiyah is still within the realm of Chachma. But nonetheless, Chachma comes from Ayin. Shnikra Briya Yesh Me'ayin Gabi Atika Kadisha, that is called the creation of something from nothing in comparison to Atik. Ulachin Gan Eden Nikra Lahanchil of Ayesh. That's why Gan Eden is called to give my loved one a Yesh. Kane Chachma Kana Bina, and Yesh is Gematria 2 times Kane, which is acquiring Chachma, acquiring Bina, which we're saying that we're drawing down from higher than Chachma, higher than Bina. Beis Pamim Kana Gematria Yesh Mechza Mitarach Mitafresh Kaf Amudi Or, which is half of the Gematria Yesh of 310. Well, 2 kanas is a full Gematria Yesh, and Yesh is half of 620 pillars of light, which are the mitzvahs, which is from Atika Kadisha of Keser. But the concept of ayin, that's revelation of Atika Kadisha, v'shorish b'chinas Shabbos yila zeu gam alias ak adam debriya be'atzilus ein sof v'chulu. And the concept of Shabbos yila actually also refers to a higher idea, which is elevating ul adam kadmon, which is adam debriya. That the gimel meaning adam, we know adam debriya yitzir is Ak akudim nikudim, and they're almost a klolos, and Ak is a klolos, and klolos olamos corresponds with olam abriya, because it's right after the tzimtzum, and you elevate that up into atzilus, the klolos, which is ein sof before the tzimtzum, atzilus ein sof. So that's a higher concept of Shabbos Yila. Vayin bezor truma kuf lamed vav aleph vayin mashikazav al pasuk basi legani chulu. Because they even mashikazav hamedrash kan al pasuk yispu atzei v'chulu yispu chayehim. And with all this, you can understand what it says in the Medrash here, that the trees should be satiated. They should be satiated in their life. That is to say, we're drawing down from the life of life, shuhu atika kadisha, which is this level of atika kadisha from Keser, from Shachazu b'Shabbos shenikra Yom HaShvi. And this drawing down on Shabbos, which is called the 7th day, Shugamkin Lashon Sova, which is also from the language of satiation, like we're saying, Yisbu Atzei Havaya, that we're bringing down the Samshacha to the, so to speak, trees in the garden into Zah, as it is in the garden. Pirush Yumshach Lehem Mechayachayim Shu Atika Kadisha, right. K'moshkasa b'medra Shaba, Parshas Emor al pasuk b'chodesh hashvi. That's muspa. From Lashon Sova. Efshar lomer show inyan ha'amshachim and tikun hashvi ve'emes. And if we're talking about shvi on Shabbos, Shabbos is drawing down then from which level in Keser? From the 7th level, the 2nd tikkun, which is ve'emes. Shubichinas bu'or pnei v'chulu, which is in the bu'or pnei melachayim, the light of the countenance, as it's known on the tikkun ve'emes is the Shin Tapuchin, the apples of the cheeks that have no hair, because it's a hamshacha without tzimtzum in the same way as the others. And that's the concept of the apples amongst the trees of the forest. That we have a revelation that's higher than, so to speak, the hairs, which is like the forest. And here we're talking about the trees in the garden getting a higher hamshacha through the avoda, or from the concept of shvi, which is Shabbos, which is muspa, and shvi of tikkun ve'emes. And this is what it means, the pasuk, that his cheeks are like the aruga is like a bunch of plants, but here we're talking about spices. Aruga sabosim ki arugo sabosim hainu atze hagan eden. That is this planting of trees in Gan Eden, v'chulu. And we're saying that the cheeks are his cheeks are like these fragrant trees of Gan Eden. As is known, the concept of the fragrance of Gan Eden, nichnas imo, with the smell of Yaakov when he were brought in Gan Eden and wearing Esav's clothing. And with all this, you can also understand why you had to have the tree of knowledge also in the garden. Because in order to bring this down, you have to purify and elevate the sparks. You have to elevate the concept of the itzadas. That's why you have to have the tree in the garden, in the Gan, not just from Eden. But he commanded him upon the tree of knowledge not to eat it, because the purification would happen automatically, not through the descent into the itzadas. Like it says in Torah Or, meaning to say he didn't have to eat it or do anything in order for that hamshacha to happen. I guess on Shabbos is mekash v'kaima. Shabbos happens, this hamshacha happens on its own, even though it says la'ovda. But I guess not in this respect. Or maybe there's the difference between Shabbos Tita and Ilah, or maybe the la'ovda was in such a way of a memela. I'm not sure. And now it's brought down on the concept of that he was gathering wood, the two eitzim, and bringing the two trees together of the Eitzadas and Eitzachayim, Perishaz, Aliyah, Olim, Habirurim, Atov, Levad. The Eitzadas, then on Shabbos, only the good parts go up. We don't concentrate on the bad parts of the Eitzadas on Shabbos. And then it says, Velora, that he does good to him, she does good to him, and not bad. Meaning to say that there's only the good part of the birur. And this is the sin of Adam Rishon, that he did not wait for the union until Shabbos, when I guess there would be no bad. There would be no birur. You didn't have to have the birur together with the bad. And you could unite, I guess, the Eitzatov and Eitzachayim. That the whole point of this of the avoda of Adam Rishon was Shabbos. So he's supposed to wait until Shabbos to have the zivug, because that was why he was put in Gan Eden, to bring down this hamshacha from Atika Kadisha, which corresponds with Shabbos. Vayin mikdash melech vayichid afreish kafalef b'shem arachav shachid hayeshelo achol meitzachayim kodem she'achol meitzadas. And according to the mikdash melech and vayichid, according from Rav Chaim Vital, that his sin was that he did not eat from the tree of life before he ate from the tree of knowledge. Because at first glance it doesn't make sense, because it simply says you should not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But the meaning is that if he would have eaten it on Shabbos, that's when the Eitzachayim shines, then it would have been permitted. Meaning to say, the idea of eating from the tree of knowledge would have been okay on Shabbos. because just like it says that he did the zivug before Shabbos, so too eating the tree was something he should not have done before Shabbos. That when it says you should not eat from the tree, it means don't eat it before Shabbos. Why? Because on Shabbos there's no Ra'ah. It's not the Eitzadas Tov Ra'ah on Shabbos. And that is to say, Shabbos, it's Eitzadas Nifrad Meharakanal. That is, on Shabbos the tree of knowledge is separated from the bad. Because on the weekday, Klipas Noga is combined, mixed, good and bad. And on Shabbos, the good is separated out from it. And so too the concept of Malchus, which is called the tree of knowledge, of good and bad, as it goes down into the Olam HaPirud, as it's enclosed within Noga, it separates from this enclothement and goes up into the world of Atzilus. If so, the tree of knowledge then is not good and bad, it's only good. And that's why it says, it only says this, the warning that from the tree of knowledge of good and bad you should not eat. And this is not to say on Shabbos. That then the good is separated out. Shabo. It's separated from the bad. And it unites with the Eitz HaChaim. And that's also what it means that he would have eaten from the Eitz HaChaim first, because it unites with the Eitz HaChaim. And because of Yuvan, and this, from all of this you can understand it in a greater way. They placed him into Gan Eden to work it. Shezeu mitzvah Shabbos canal, which is the mitzvah of Shabbos. It's a little incongruous that the mitzvah of Shabbos is to rest, but that was his avoda. She'az olima eitzim hanal, that then these trees are elevated. The concept of above the eitzim, like it says by the Akedah. Yovel mincha de Shabbos, which is the concept of Yovel, which is mincha of Shabbos. It seems to be a different concept. Not Shudafka why mincha of Shabbos, but maybe that's when you have the true, the concept of not, you have the concept of not behada, but behadam, together with them. Both of them, that's where the real yichud happens, not the beginning or the day of Shabbos, but by the Atika Kadisha of Rav Deraven. And look, in the Alshich has a nice explanation here with the concept of the trees. That the trees are what grows from all of our mitzvahs. Lovely. Torah, and the tree of life is in comparison to the concept of Torah. Because the study of Torah is equivalent to them all the mitzvahs. And this that it says that all the everything was grown from the ground. That is to say, all of this happens that from the work of a person of Adam below. And then in parentheses, Eitz HaChaim Torah iu v'chayoi. Eitz HaChaim is the Torah, which is him and his life, which is the concept of Oros. Chachmi la Oros. V'atzi hagan mitzvos i v'garmohi. And the trees of the garden, which are the mitzvos, are the concept of the kelim. So in that concept, Eitz HaChaim and Eitz HaDas is the concept of Oros and kelim. And after the parentheses, and there's proof for the words of the Al-Shich, the Pirush of the Al-Shich from the Medrash. Which tree did you do this under? Look over there at length, and I'm not sure what it says. And here it says that it compares the deeds of the mitzvahs Tachas ilan zayis, like a worker who works in a garden, in a orchard, under an olive tree, or shar ilan osayin sham, or under other trees. Look over there. Vine mashadimazu mashadimazel etzmichas ilan daikav lo litvua. Now this that it compares it to growth of a tree and not to produce. Ki bitvua tzmicha hi kein hazera, because by produce the growth is similar to the seed. It's not like a tree that's incomparable. Rak shehu betosefes v'ribo. It's only greater than the seed. But by a tree, the seed is completely incomparable to the tree. And how much more so the fruit that you can eat that has sweetness and so forth that is grown from the seed, completely incomparable. And similarly is the concept of the lights that are drawn through the mitzvahs, like it says in another place. The concept of Yisrael. It's also a concept of planting Yaakov and sprouting forth Yisrael, meaning to say growth of Bein Aroch. Umashikos of Yatzmach Havai Elokim, Ein Mashikos of Dibra Maschil Ki Keretz Totzit Simcha Ukigana Hulu. Look what it says: like the earth brings forth its produce, Ukigana Yizorei Tzmiach, Kin Adnei Havai Yatzmach Tzedakah. That's the concept of the simile. It's the concept of Havai Elokim, I guess. And there it explains it. Look over there. If you want to know why, it's from the ground, because the main ability for the plants to grow is from corresponding